Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we've got a knife from Spain. It is the Joker CANADIENSE, or in English we just say Canadian. So this is the Canadian knife by Joker. Sort of got a Nessmuk style blade. Got a nice handle here that's nice and smooth micarta. Joker makes their knife models, their fixed blades like this especially, with a variety of different handle options. You can get wood, you can get micarta, you can get G10, and I don't know if there's other materials, but you can get those in a variety of colors. Some of them are bright hunter orange, or, of course, blacks and browns and all kinds of different colors. This is a nice tan micarta with some, get it to focus over here, with some black liners right there. Fixed pins, lanyard hole back here, and a long full flat grind. If you're into fixed blades, what am I looking at? If you're into fixed blades, you might want to consider a knife from Spain. The designer here, it says by J. Sabater. So let's see if I can get it close to the camera here. Get it to focus on that. Right there. Well, I'll show you when we get to the tabletop. Let's get over there right now and take a good close look at this knife. Keep watching. To get started, let's cover the versions of this that there are. There's 3 versions of this knife, and basically it's the handle material. This is the micarta. You can also get it in bacote wood, or you can get it in walnut. And your other option is you can upgrade it. Each one of those 3 colors has a different model number, but it's the number inside it is 114. So 2 letters, then 114. And then if you get the 114/P, you get your leather sheath with an add-on little ferrocerium rod. Not so little, but a decent size ferrocerium rod with a loop so it sits on the sheath. Only leather sheath is possible. I wish that they did Kydex for this. They do Kydex for a few of their knives, but not for the Canadian version. I can find stores. I found a store in Australia, the Netherlands, of course, Spain, a store in the UK that has this. Knife Center has this specific one. And, of course, Amazon carries these as well. Amazon's mostly out of stock. They just got the bacote as of October 18th. In most places, it's going to be listed as the Canadiense knife, or it might just be the Canadian Joker. In some places, it's the BS9, as it says right there. And in very tiny letters around that BS9, at the top it says Bushcraft, and at the bottom it's Spanish for survival. So they're marketing this as a Bushcraft survival style knife, so BS9. Let's start zoomed out. Move this thing down a little bit so we can take a look at the sheath. So it's a leather sheath. I've got a strong suspicion this is bonded leather, ground up leather, and it's re-glued back together. The back of this here just looks way too consistent. It just has that familiar look of bonded leather. But we've got this dangle snap that's removable. And they didn't just use basic generic snaps, although it looks like it on the front side of these. But on the inside there, it says Waldes, W-A-L-D-E-S, Spain. Yeah, that's nice. And so you can use it with the dangle attachment. You put your belt through here, and actually it goes this way, doesn't it? There you go. So your belt can go through where my 3 fingers are, or you can take this off completely and put your belt through here and carry it that way. I like a dangle carry, and I like that it's optional, and these snaps are good and strong, so good choices right there. Sheath is fold over leather and double stitched for 2/3 of the way. We've got these hollow pins, 4 of them through here, and rivets, 3 rivets to hold the belt loop on. The inside hasn't been treated or anything. It's just the natural leather from the factory. And the blade fits in there quite well. You do have to be a little careful how you put it in. You can, if you can see a little bit in there where the leather is cut up a little bit, that section of leather, since this is the widest point right here, when that wide point hits there, it has to squeeze a little bit, and it ends up cutting that just a tiniest little bit, but the knife fits all the way in. The handle ends right here at the base of their logo, and it says Joker, and it has their Joker emblem right there. There's a hole in the bottom. There's a hole in the bottom of the sheath. Shut up, Jake. So it will drain. Let's see, you can see that spot right there. Very clear run for water to get out, which I like to have, especially on bonded leather. You don't want it to soak because it's just going to come apart. So that's the sheath. We'll talk about the weights and everything later on. Here's the blade. Let's zoom in a bit. We've got 14C28N stainless steel, which I'm quite fond of. Joker is one of those old school companies, kind of like Puma in Germany, that likes to put their brand name in big letters on their knives. Thankfully, it's not quite as, taking as much real estate over the knife as Puma does. Joker, and the Joker emblem there, Canadiense, and BS9. And then on the ricasso here, it's a Sandvik 14C28N, Spain, and then AB for Albacete. That's the city or the region where a lot of knives are made in Spain. So Joker's based in that region. We don't have a sharpness choil on this knife. I like sharpness choils on my fixed blades. I could always add one if I wanted to. You can even see from their sharpening that they got onto the ricasso here a little bit and sort of marred it a little bit. That's what happens when you don't have a ricasso. A sharpness choil. It has a ricasso. You end up chewing up that plunge area where it changes from the ricasso to the blade. So I will be adding a sharpness choil to this knife, I'm sure. The blade starts more narrow, has a bulb, comes back to the tip here. It's sort of a leaf shape on the lead end, or spear point kind of shape right there. It's very thick right behind the grind here. It's 1.5 millimeters thick right there behind the angles there. So very, very strong tip. I don't know if they intentionally wanted it to be that thick or not, but that's how thick it is. So if you're plunging this into something, the blade's going to survive. Whatever it's going into is going to get chewed up. The thickness behind the grind, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. It's not too bad for most of the edge. It is a little bit thick up there like I was just talking. There's a tiny guard here. I don't know if you can even call it a guard. If you're going to be using this knife for doing some plunging into things, if you're not sure exactly what's behind it, and there could be something hard, that's a little scary because your hand can come up over the edge and, slice right into those sausages. And that's not what they are. They're not supposed to be sausages. They're supposed to be fingers. So don't turn your fingers into minced meat. So can it do puncturing, piercing, stabbing, if you will? Yes, it can. I'd be pretty careful, though, if I was doing that with this knife. The micarta here has been shaped and polished, and it's quite smooth. It's like a hardwood finish, that kind of smooth. I wish it was a rough micarta so that when your hands get wet or the handle gets wet, that you would have a lot more grip. But the shape of this handle is very good for a secure grip. We've got it narrow and it bulges up and it comes back. Same thing this way. It's more narrow at the beginning. It gets thick right around this second pin, a tiny bit after it's where it's thickest, and then it comes back down. That really fits well at least in my hand, it's just a good, comfortable fit. It's a very, very good fit. There's no jimping for your thumb rest up here. I didn't miss it. I thought I would, but I didn't really miss it when I was doing my hard cutting and extended cutting. You got a lanyard tube at the back here. By that point, it's fairly narrow, so it's not bad. I don't use lanyards that often on folding knives, but sometimes on fixed blades I like to use them. I do wish they would have chamfered this edge here, though, because I put some paracord through there, and the inner edge on those is a little bit rough. I will be chamfering that off just a little bit. It's too bad they didn't do that from the factory. They really should have. It wouldn't increase the cost that much to do that one extra step of, whatever cordage you're putting through there. You don't want it to start ripping up. The price ranges, they change depending on what the handle materials are, but most of them, it starts around $85 US for this knife. That's American prices. You can find this on Amazon.com. Sometimes you can find it on Amazon.ca. Most of these Joker fixed blades are sold out on Amazon.com at the moment. But, so for once, this knife is really easy to get in Europe and harder to get in North America. So that's just fair, isn't it? All right, time to go over all the sizes, dimensions, measurements, and that kind of thing. We'll put this on the screen as we do that. The weight of this knife, 181 grams. That is rounded to about 6.4 ounces. The weight of the sheath is 104 grams. That's rounded to about 3.7 ounces together. It's 285 grams, which is just a hair over 10 ounces, 10.05 or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not a terribly light knife, but it's not a super heavy knife either. Like, it's not a great big deal to carry this knife. This is a good all-purpose survival style blade that can do a lot of different tasks. It's not too heavy. I was doing sizes, right? Yeah, that's what that's here for. Let's go to the other measurements. The blade length and the cutting edge length. If I measure the cutting edge length on a straight line from the ricasso to the tip and the blade tip to the handle, it's the same measurement. 107.3 millimeters, 4.22 inches, so just under 4.25. The thickness of the blade, back here at the ricasso, it's very thick as possible, is 3.88 millimeters, 0.1525 of an inch. So well over 1/8 of an inch. The blade depth, the widest point is right up in here, 31.8 millimeters, 1.25 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? Now, for most of it, until you get well into, the belly, the last inch, inch and a quarter, most of it here, it's 0.57 millimeters or 22/1000ths of an inch. I wish it was a little bit thinner, but that's not terrible. Now I got to go take care of Bandit. Bandit likes leaving this room and then going to the living room and barking, so I have to get him back into this room. I was talking about the thickness behind the grind, I think. Yes. The thickness behind the grind, it's the same for about most of it. And then in the middle of this belly point, about 1.25 inches down, a little over 3 centimeters down, starts getting thicker and goes all the way up to 0.15 millimeters, 59/1000ths of an inch. And it gets thinner pretty quick. The grind angles. On this side, it started at 14.7 very quickly. By about there, it got to 17.8, and it stayed at 17.8 for most of this. And then right near the end here, it got, at the tip of it, at the very tip, it got up to 20.7. So the average of that is on the screen. On this side, it started at 19.1, 18.3 a third of the way down, 20 degrees, and then the tiny last bit got all the way up to 24.5. So obviously, it's quite a bit steeper there. When I go to sharpen this, you're going to see a lot of grinding here up because, it's just so terribly thick behind the grind. If I make it the same angle all the way along. Next, we've got the handle length, which is 116.2 millimeters, 4.57. The thickness of the handle, the thickest point, like I said, is just behind that second pin, 23.9 millimeters, 0.941 of an inch. Like I said, it's got that nice three-dimensional size and feel, very, very comfortable. The handle depth, the widest point this way is 30.2, 1.19 inches, and it's less than an inch up here. Yep, a little bit less than an inch. And the grip area, it's about 11 centimeters, a tiny bit over 11 centimeters and just a tiny bit under 4¼ inches. So it can take most hand sizes, not the Super XL guys. You're going to find you've run out of room. The total length of this knife from tip to tail, 223.5 millimeters, 8.8 inches. Did I tell you how, forgot to have this on the screen, did I tell you how sharp it was from the factory? About 155 bests. So just a tiny bit worse than average from what I've been measuring. So not bad. There was one spot, and I must have tested it. Actually, I know I did a little bit of cutting before I did the measurements. There's one spot where it rolled over just a little bit. And then when I tested it on my tester, it was over 500. But I tested it at a few other spots. And other than that one bad spot, it averaged out to 155. So that's not bad. I already talked about how much it costs. Let me go over my final thoughts. I wish this was full grain leather. I really don't like bonded leather, but it's not terrible for this price point. There's no sharpness choil. I don't like that. I really wish it had a sharpness choil. The handle's a little bit smooth, but no smoother than a hardwood handle. So you just have to be a little more careful when your hands get wet. But that's true of so many fixed blades. Though I wish it would have been that coarse micarta. That would have been a whole lot better. I wish the grind was a little thinner behind the edge, especially here closer to, on the belly part up here. I wish it was a little thinner. Not a lot thinner, but I wish it was definitely 0.7 millimeters instead of 1.5, more than double that. And back in here, I'd like it to be, 19, 20 thousandths instead of 22 thousandths. If you want a guard on your knife, I'm not saying it's a con of this knife, just be aware there's no real guard, no real protection to stop your hand from sliding over the edge if you puncture into something and come to a sudden stop. But the pros, it is a pretty beastly little knife. You've got thick blade stock, full tang, well constructed, decent grind for the bevel, fairly good sharpening from the factory, and of course you can fix the sharpening. It's got decent carry system. I like the dangle, and I like the leather. I like Kydex dangle the best, but this isn't bad. You've got a variety of handle options to choose from. That's a good thing. Already said the full flat grind. That's good. Bandit, where are you going? Bandit, Bandit, come here. Come here. You need to stay in here. So yeah, the grind's pretty good. The lanyard hole placement is pretty good. For a knife that doesn't come apart, I'm quite happy with this. And they did a great job grinding this handle. It's very, very comfortable in hand. Might I add some jimping? Maybe. I already talked about that. So the Joker CANADIENSE, nice modern steel on a company that it does traditional knives mostly. I like that. It's not a crazy high price. It has to get shipped all the way from, well, I guess Chinese knives get shipped from China. This is shipped from Spain, so shipping doesn't add an awful lot to the price. It's decent. The badging, I'd like a little bit smaller, but, it just is the way they do it there, eh? I'm talking like a Canadian now. The designer's name on here, I like that touch. I wouldn't mind if that was a little bit smaller, but I like that touch too. So if you're in the market for one of these, I'll have links down below. I'm sure they'll get back in stock on Amazon.com before too terribly long. So just check back every once in a while. On Amazon, I've got influencer pages, and I've got whole pages. I've got a whole set of folding knives that I've recommended. I've got like 100 fixed blade knives that I recommend. So I'll leave links for all that stuff down below to make it easy for you to find stuff on Amazon if that's what you want to do. There's quite a bit less on Amazon.ca than there is on Amazon.com, but that doesn't surprise us Canadians, does it? And if you're really wanting this knife in a hurry, there is that one handle, a wood handle version at Amazon.com as I'm recording this. But you can always order it from Europe if you really want to. So thanks for watching my video. Thanks to my Patreon and YouTube member supporters. You guys really are the best. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.